That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by Aaron Fitt, editor-in-chief of D1 Baseball. Aaron, how are you this morning?
I'm good, fellas. How are you guys?
Fitty, we are hanging in there, man. It's like death taxes, the SEC and the ACC, right? I mean, it's it's we're getting out of hand, aren't we?
It's just you're right. It's more of the same, and that's the way the world works now. It's just it's the SEC's world, and the ACC's got a piece of it, and everyone else is just trying to hang on for dear life. That's what it feels like.
How long it seems, because it seems like not that long ago, the ACC and the SEC were about even. Not that much longer ago, it seemed like the ACC was ahead. When did that?
I said 5 or 6 years ago. What is it? Sooner or longer than that?
When did that happen? Where it's like the SEC and then the ACC gets their little slice of pies. I think how you put it.
Yeah, I think you said 5 years. I mean, it's really been the last 5 years where it's been SEC versus SEC in the finals every year, which is one telling indicator for sure. But I think it probably does stretch back a little longer than that.
Yeah.
I mean, really, Virginia is still the only ACC team that's won a title in the last 70 years, right? I mean, it's nuts, and the SEC. Even obviously LSU was kind of the big one that was winning championships for since the 90s. But once they started getting multiple programs winning those things, Vanderbilt, of course, their rise, and you had Florida in there in 2017. And so it kind of felt like it was starting already. They're starting to separate into teams there, 10, 15 years ago. And then once we got into this NIL era, the portal era, where they can just kind of have their pick of all the best players every year, and the ACC gets plenty of good guys too, but the SEC has the pick of the best guys because it's the premier destination. I mean, and NIL money has a lot to do with that, and obviously all the the money they pour into facilities and coaching salaries. And I think the SEC network, the rise of that platform, and the talent that the SEC network has, I think that matters too. It's just you turn on the SEC network and you see Kyle Peterson and Chris Burke and all these guys, Ben McDonald, and they're all. It makes the whole thing feel just big time, right? And in a way, I feel like the ACC network is maybe trying to find its identity in that respect. Trying to find their big guns that feel like big time events. And so, it's just part of it. I just think that's if you want to play the biggest time in college baseball, you're going to go to the SEC.
So I'm glad you brought up the big time feel, because I have wondered how much do the atmospheres play into this, because you go to like a Mississippi State or an Arkansas or some of these places, or LSU in the SEC, where it feels obviously not the same scale as football, but it obviously seems like there is, like, it's a very big deal, where in a lot of other places you're playing college baseball in the country, that's not it. Like, how much does that part of it play into sort of the shift for you?
Yeah, I think it's big. I think it's a big part of it, and you can go round and round about chicken or the egg thing. What came first, the winning or the fans?
Sure.
I mean, I think you could argue that maybe the fan stuff happened first. You go back to the Mississippi State in the 80s, and Ron Polk started building that thing up before they ever won a title. With Thunder and Lightning there. You've seen the documentary, right, with Will Clark and Rafael Palmeiro. And, LSU certainly, I mean, I guess that in their case, it feels like the winning kind of came hand in hand with the fan support. But once they started to build those monsters in the 80s and 90s, and then it just kind of spread, in my opinion, it kind of spread around the conference from there. And now everywhere you go, it seems like for the most part in the SEC, it's just it's just an electricity that you don't find in other leagues, even the ACC. I mean, you can go to Clemson or Florida State or UVA for a big game, or Carolina, NC State this weekend. I'm sure it'll be a great atmosphere. Basketball's over now, so hey, let's see how the baseball team's doing. But if you go to Starkville in early March, it's going to be packed if they're playing well. But I mean, if they're not playing well, you're going to have a great crowd there. But I've been to Starkville in February, and it's been like there's 12,000 people here. What the heck? You don't get that in other places. It's just it leads to a much different atmosphere.
Yeah, it's interesting. I start to look at, and I don't know how important it's going to be. Talent is the talent, and you're clearly playing on the road once you get to Omaha. But I think it is an interesting year, Fitty, when you look at the lack of success that some of the SEC teams at the top have had on the road. And I think maybe that speaks – I mean, Vandy's 500 on the road. I think Arkansas is a couple games over 500. Georgia just one game over 500 on the road. I mean, conversely, like Tennessee and Bama, who have been pretty good on the road, haven't been as dominant at home. Is this kind of typify what you're talking to about with the stadiums and the fan base and the expansion? Because the road records have been tough to come by in the SEC.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. I really do. I think that, but also, because these teams are so good at home, it just kind of magnifies that a little bit. I mean, I think generally speaking, the home teams always had an advantage in baseball, and that's why they tweaked the RPI formula years ago to weight road wins more than home wins, is because they had calculated that. I can't remember what the number was, but the home team wins like 58% of the time, or 60% of the time, something like that. And that's across all college baseball. So it's not just the SEC. So, but I mean, you're right. I mean, you look at these road records, and like Texas this weekend, they go on the road as their first real big road test of the year. I mean, they've won a couple of road series, Kentucky, whatever. It's not quite the same as going to Arkansas. You go to Arkansas and you get smacked in the face by a really good Arkansas team in an environment where they're ready for you and they're lit up. And, and that to me wasn't that big of a surprise. It's just like you're on the road in the SEC, you're just trying to get a game for the most part. And if you win a series, that's great. That can really flip the script for you. But really, you're trying to avoid getting swept half the time is what it feels like.
So, Aaron, as you brought up Texas. Obviously, I like checking out your guys' RPIs over at d1baseball.com. And you've got Texas at the very top there. Where would you draw the line in terms of a gap between the first tier of teams and sort of that next tier for you?
Interesting.
Yeah, well, I think for me, if we're talking about teams that I think are leading contenders to win the national title, I've got Texas, Arkansas, LSU probably is my very top tier. And I'm actually a little bit worried about Texas long term now that the injuries have just continued to pile up. And they lost their ace Jared Spencer for the year, and they still don't have Max Blue, who was a Big 12 Player of the Year last year. He may be back.
I think, I was gonna say they talk as though he could make a run for supers.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. But at that point, you don't know, is he going to be rusty, or what's it going to be looking like if he actually was back?
If you get there, yeah.
It's an uncertainty. The fact that they continue to win without him for so long is big. But then you throw Spencer on top of that, and okay, we'll move Ruger Riojas there into the rotation. That's good. You can trust him as a starter, but that then weakens your bullpen, because Riojas was such a weapon in the bullpen, and so it just takes a toll. And so long term, I might have more faith in Arkansas and LSU, even though Texas has been the best team this year. Full stop. They've been the best team through the first 11 weeks. Certainly, they were flawless basically. But I'm a little nervous about them in the postseason. Whereas Arkansas and LSU, I just think are so complete and just a little healthier. But and I would say other teams kind of in the maybe just the next tier for me of contenders, the ACC powers. Florida State, North Carolina. Maybe Clemson. Clemson's wobbling a little bit right now, but still think they're good. I would throw Oregon and Oregon State in that conversation. Maybe, from Tennessee. Certainly, I'm not forgetting about them. And Georgia. I mean, Georgia just feels they're so much better at home than away from home. And to me,
they've been really average on the road. I think just over 500. But again, you only have the 3 losses at home.
Yeah, and they're probably going to host, a regional or super, so that gives you a pretty good chance to get to Omaha. But it's a team that I don't necessarily think is built to win in Omaha. But I've been wrong about that before. But I do think that they're an Omaha caliber team. I think they're very good.
Let me jump down to a team that interests me, because they're always in the hunt, and maybe you can speak to the finances and kind of the setup. But they got 17 road wins. And they're just it's Irvine. Every year, Fitty, every year you see Irvine is right there, and it's the same kind of mental makeup, and it's how they play ball. And I get the coach. How are they surviving financially, doing what they do, and kind of being who they have been on the whole college baseball landscape?
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. So I was just out maybe about 2 weeks ago. I was out there to see them play at Cal Poly, which was kind of the big series of the year in the Big West. Poly was in first place heading into it, and and I was talking to Ben Orloff, their coach, after the game. You probably remember Ben as a player from their one of their early Omaha teams, great shortstop. And I said, hey Ben, if I want to talk to a player, is your SID here? He goes, no, our SID doesn't travel. We're a mom and pop operation. And I'm thinking, wow, this is an elite college baseball
elite
program.
Yeah, for a while now.
And their SID doesn't go on the road, even in the bus trip up to Cal Poly. I mean, wow. So it amazes me what they've done, because it's not, they have a, it's a nice little mid-major facility, and it's Orange County, and you're 10 minutes to Newport Beach, and there's things to offer. It's a great academic school, but a lot of places have some of that stuff, and they're not winning. I mean, look at Pepperdine. Pepperdine's like one of the bottom 5 teams in the country in RPI this year.
Yeah.
Just for a program that's won a national title, and it's in Malibu, and has a lot of the same things to offer. And so it's hard to sustain what they've built. But I mean, I think part of it is Ben Orloff and Daniel Babona are really good coaches. And they are gritty and tough. And you look at that road record, they went to Cal Poly and swept those guys, and Cal Poly, it has a good atmosphere, one of the better atmospheres in the West. I mean, it was sold out all weekend. And Irvine just went in there and won a great series. So, I do think that you just have that, kind of the old school Fullerton DNA, where they just, they're gritty and they execute and play really good winning baseball. That's how I see them.
So from a program that seems to be doing a lot with not that much, to a program that has a lot, shows up in Omaha a lot, and has never been able to break through. I've been rooting for Florida State since the days of Marshall McDougal and Eddie Martinez Esteve. But is there when you look at this team, I know you put them in that second group of teams that could win a national title.
It's pitching.
Where's the fatal flaw for them if they aren't able to break through again this year? And not that they're a favorite, but they're, 6th in the RPI. They're in the conversation.
First of all, a hat tip to you. Anyone can bring up Marshall McDougal, but you don't hear a lot of.
He's a Florida State honk. It's embarrassing.
I mean, to be honest with you, I was a bigger Matt Diaz guy than I was a Marshall McDougal guy at the time. So, but I did love me some Eddie Martinez Esteve.
Oh, God.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. I think they're. I had to pick a flaw. I think it's the bullpen is the one thing I'm the most concerned about. Actually, I really like their rotation. I mean, you've got Jamie Arnold, we all know, is one of the most talented pitchers in the country and having a great year. And Joey Bellini was maybe the best pitcher in the country in the first half, and has still maintained a pretty good level. He's been good, but another quality lefty. And Wes Mendez, who they got from Ole Miss, when he's on, he can beat anybody. He's got really good stuff. He's just been up and down, but their bullpen's been a little bit leaky, and at times it's been a little bit of a battle back there. I think they just got Joe Charles back from injury. He had a good weekend this past weekend, and so that's a nice boost as a veteran piece. Maybe that'll give them some stability back there. But their offense is still very good, and it's not as good as last year. They lost so much firepower from last year, but they rebuilt it pretty well. And obviously Alex Lodis is having a Golden Spikes caliber season at shortstop for them, and that's been a huge boost to have a guy take a leap forward like that. And I love that middle infield with him and Drew Farrow. You got a middle infield like that, and that's a great place to start.
Well, I got to go over to Chapel Hill with my guys, of course, and it's a little bit different team, at least for me, when just watching them. And I think the ERA is still under 3.5 as a team, and the pitching depth has been better, not as punchy offensively. Do you like Carolina? I know they've had more talented teams. We've gone through a little upheaval, but the roster seems to be pretty grimy for as much as Carolina can be grimy.
Yeah, that's well said. I mean, you look at some of the big name transfers they brought in, and I mean, it's Tyson Bass from North Carolina Wesleyan, which is I think D2, and you got Kane Kepley from Liberty, but their starting shortstop for the second year in a row is a Division III transfer from New Jersey. I mean, it's pretty grimy. You're right. And Madera's a good player at shortstop. Don't get me wrong. He's a fun player, but it's that's not your typical high profile, ACC, SEC kind of shortstop recruit. And so, it is a team that I think has some grit, and some older guys like Jackson Vanderbrake and Hunter Stokely, who have been in the program forever, 5th, 6th year guys that are having solid years for them. And so, it's another team like Florida State. They lost so much from last year. Everyone talks about advanced pay cut, but they lost a lot of really good players from last year's team, and they're much less offensive. But they can still battle you, and it seems like their offense has gotten gradually better.
It's so. I mean, I think they're still only like 280 as a team. It's a different Carolina team.
Yeah, exactly right. And pitching is the strength. Getting Jake Knapp back from injury this year has been huge. He might be ACC Pitcher of the Year, even over Jamie Arnold. He's had a great year. And not having him last year was a big blow. They lost him right before the season started. He's supposed to be maybe a Friday starter for him, and they lose him in February and they don't miss a beat. And it's a good thing he's come back strong this year, because Jason DeCaro hasn't really had the sophomore year we expected. He was a first-team preseason All-American, and he's kind of battled it. But it's 3 really good weekend starters. They lost their All-American closer, Matthew Matthias, to injury, and they haven't really missed the beat there because they have a couple of very talented freshmen that have kind of taken the reins there in the bullpen. So I still think the pitching staff is a strength, but maybe not as deep as we thought it was going to be.
Aaron, can't let you go until I ask about the local teams here. Obviously, Nebraska's been super up and down this season. For a long time, their RPI kind of hovered in a range where you thought an at-large might still be possible. As they sit, I believe, at 70 this morning. Has that ship kind of sailed, and it's all Big Ten tournament or bust for them? And then on the opposite side, Creighton having a good year, but
gotta win
because the Big East is what it is, even with an RPI in the 57 range, 58, I think, maybe this morning. Just relatively, is it both for both teams? Got to win the conference tournament or bust, or does either team still have a chance of getting one of those at-larges?
I think for Nebraska, it's definitely at this point conference tournament or bust. I mean, they're below 500 overall.
Yeah.
If the tournament ended today, they wouldn't even be eligible for an at-large bid. But and that's it. If they got hot, I think it's too little, too late. It's just. It's a disappointing season for them. We had them in the preseason top 25.
Yeah.
And obviously you lose your ace to an injury early in the year. That's a big blow. But they just have had guys that haven't really developed the way we thought they would or hoped they would, and certainly the coaching staff thought and hoped they would. And so, maybe they can make the run of the conference tournaments. I still think they're dangerous. I mean, I saw them early, and they got kind of whacked down at the Frisco Classic, and I still walked away saying, man, they have a lot of talent. They were wheeling out arm after arm, like young, freshman, sophomore arms that are throwing mid-90s. And I'm thinking, okay, if they can get these guys kind of some experience, this team could be really dangerous down the stretch. And so maybe that'll happen still. I don't know, but they got to win the conference tournament. But Creighton probably still has to win the conference tournament, but they're alive in it. I mean, you wish they had a few more quality wins, because they haven't played a single game, a Q1 game as it's called. The way that they keep those quads, where if you play a good team at home, sometimes it doesn't even count as a Q1 win. It's got to be on the road or whatever. You know how that stuff works.
Oh yeah.
But they're 0-0 against Q1, so that's kind of that probably will jump out to the committee. Not a great non-conference strength of schedule, which is a Big East at-large team. You kind of need that, and so I think they're a long shot, but they've had a good year. I mean, they're 12-3 in the league, a great overall record. If they could keep on winning down the stretch here, they have at least a chance. I think if they're around 50 or so when the dust settles and the RPI, make a run in the conference tournament, maybe don't win it, they could conceivably get a bid, but it's not too likely. But it's there's a real chance.
Who's your player of the year?
It's so funny. We've been debating this at length. And,
this might be the toughest. This is tough.
There's no clear-cut front runner like there usually is. Right now, it seems like we just did our position power rankings this week. The shortstop position is the toughest one. There's a bunch of candidates there. We had a vote. Just 7 of us in our chat. Like, hey, who do you want? You want Alex Lodis from Florida State? You want Rock Chalowski from UCLA? And it wound up being 4-3. And Lodis got the vote. I voted for Chalowski. I think he's a really good player for UCLA. But I think those 2 guys are up there. I think maybe Liam Doyle, if you're looking for a pitcher from Tennessee, he's up there. But
does it help or hurt that FSU hits 320 as a team?
That's a good point. I mean, for me, I look at what Chalowski's doing. He means so much for UCLA. He's so important there for that team, for top 10, 15 team. And Lodis has more help. That helps. It really does.
That's Aaron Fitt, D1 Baseball. Aaron, great stuff as always. I'm sure we will talk more as postseason play gets underway and we get closer to that. We appreciate the time as always.
All right, guys, you got it.
Appreciate it, Fitty.